We're here on day 2 of Identity Week Europe 2025. I'm Evie Kimsing, editor of identityweek.net. I'm joined now by Hubert Behaghel, who's the Chief Project Technology Officer at Veriff. It's really great to speak to you this morning.
Good to see you and good to meet you.
How did you find day 1 of the conference?
It was really engaging. So this year we've decided to have a booth right at the center of the action, and we got a lot of visitors, so that was nice. And I can see a very interesting, this is an industry that's actually hard to sell because there's a lot of moving targets, identities being redefined in many ways. It was quite interesting to see that very strong trends, and we're all actually looking toward the same future. So that was actually an interesting level of synergy, yes.
And Veriff supports multiple verticals, which is brilliant, from fintech to social platforms. How do you tailor your identity verification strategy to those risks and opportunities?
It's actually I wouldn't say it's a fully solved problems, because every vertical is actually, as you said, like developing their own risk management and the risk profile is very different. So when you look at FinServ, for instance, if we're honest, they were mostly driven in the past years by compliance. And now we see a big shift towards performance because the cost of fraud is becoming a driver in itself. In which case, where orchestrating around compliance requirement was a big theme, now we can see that there is a laser focus of balancing level of accuracy on, detecting and mitigating fraud while preserving conversion. What we see now in other industries like what we call marketplaces, which includes gig economy and dating apps, etc. These marketplaces, they are not regulated. They come to Veriff with, so here the performance is the same, but what's so interesting is they have this explosion of use cases. If you could put yourself, in marketplaces like Instacart, they have use cases for shoppers, for age-limited buying, and so here the idea is to be able to tailor different flows and allow them to actually take different profile of risk management, right? And this is where the Veriff portfolio is going. Is on one side we have this orchestration platform which allows them to kind of cater for any need, but also end-to-end solution that comes, battery included for the vertical, KYC for FinServ, and then what they call on marketplaces like earner and spender packages to be able to manage trust at the right level.
Lots of these verticals will be utilising the digital wallets. It's a massive topic here at Identity Week. How is Veriff evolving its approach to digital identity?
Yes, so that's the approach we have is actually to be an identity solution that actually is polyglot. So right now what we see is popping up on the radar different digital identity schemes. The one that our customers care the most about tends to be government identity schemes, right? And so here it's a matter of integrating. For us, it's actually an amplification of our differentiation, because what we want to deliver is the most global, accurate, and automated verification experience, which means actually, if you think about these digital identities, they are the full package, right? It's easier for the end user, it has a higher robustness in terms of level of verification, and it can be cheaper as well. Now, the paradox, if you want, is that there are so many of them that actually we see actually that it's becoming a challenge for our customers. Some of them, if I'm honest, we work with very big brands, some of the biggest buyers of verification in the world, and they had also, for their low risk, high volume use cases, they had their own DIY solution. And it's interesting to see that they wanted Veriff to actually take over this DIY solution, because the cost of integrating all these digital identity schemes is just ridiculous. And it's better to have a pure player like Veriff to kind of just do it once and for all. But on the other side, again, we see a great opportunity. Now, Veriff is very ambitious, and even, I would hope to say, visionary. We think that they are going to have some challenges in terms of harmonization of these schemes, which is going to create interoperability. Veriff believes that it should issue passport in the future, and that this passport shouldn't be backed by a specific scheme coming from a specific government, but it should be backed by your data and your good behavior online, and that should create some kind of trust capital. So, there is a big vision behind it, but today the idea is to be this kind of polyglot identity verification platform that just always takes the best methods to verify people based on the region, the use case, the jurisdiction, And of course, for us, what's always important is the experience, because it's easy to have 100% of accuracy if you also create a lot of friction for the good people. But the game is actually low friction for the good people and no chance to go through for the fraudsters.
It's interesting to hear your relationships with tech providers, governments you mentioned. What are the key biggest threats and opportunities you see with the rise of AI as well? That's another big technology.
So yeah, AI is going to be, is already transformative, I would say, for the fraudsters. Like we've seen deepfake, but the truth is with agentic AI, there's going to be a level of automation on the fraud side that's going to be a bit impressive. Now, of course, it comes with lots of opportunities on the protection side. For us, first, actually, LLM has become some kind of new foundation to build solution from, and a lot of our orchestration, we are, for instance, our proof of address product that we just, you could say, relaunched last month, is LLM based and provide a level of coverage, a level of fraud protection that's much deeper. But for us, the biggest transformation is within our team, so it's not very visible, but the way our fraud countermeasure team or even our data science team can now leverage agentic AI to be able to correlate thousands of data points per session, that's going to make a big difference. We think that actually that's going to make us look at trust even beyond pure identity. So you were asking me before how we verticalize our packages. So, Veriff has organized the problem of trust online in 3 questions. Are you who you say you are? So that's identity verification. We covered that already. Are you a person? And even are you the person we expect, which is authentication. And here, this liveness check is becoming a big deal for Veriff. And actually, we're a bit surprised with our success, because something we've started working when we did our IDV, where you need to take a selfie, and we extracted all this biometric and data science solution into a standalone liveness check, which has become very powerful, successful. But it's true, if you think about it, this ability to detect liveness is going to be the one way to hold the line between agents that could be even malicious and human being. And we definitely want to have human-only zone in the digital economy of tomorrow. So that's a big investment for us, and it's we know now it's a critical part of the infrastructure of trust for the digital economy. And the last thing to say is actually to manage the trust at the right level. So on one side, you have this liveness trying to contextualize with real-time data, this liveness element. But there is a wider, based on verticals and job to be done, how do you build a 360 view of the user, of the context of the transaction? And here, we started with obvious use cases like AML and PEP and sanction for KYC, but trying to really enrich this data to create this view. And then if you think about it on each vertical, where can we get extra data to contextualize the transaction and the user better, make a risk assessment, and then adapt the verification flow dynamically based on this. That's how we kind of look at still having the edge on the fraudsters. And
so it's a holistic approach, and you're thinking about each vertical really.
Yes, because there are 2 things that are so interesting in our work is, every company has its own definition of identity. And it's very interesting because, even if you think about it, we've been talking about light KYC, for instance, in the FinServe segment, which is to say, you actually want to start, it's like a progressive handshake. Like first, you just have the device and some data, and then you already have a view of risk, and then you're going to ask just maybe for a phone number and an email, and then you're going to decide, okay, it's safe. I don't need to do 2 heavy checks. And so that means that the definition of identity already is risk-based. And then certain industry like dating, we had a lot to learn last year when we started having all these dating apps coming to us. And they can't be intrusive. When you're dating, you don't want to give your full, of course, definitely not your source of revenues, but even your passport is too much, right? But on the other side, the way to build trust on such communities is actually much more biometric oriented, because what you say about you has to be true, right? And suddenly your profile picture becomes a very important asset that needs to say the truth already. So initially, platform were letting people to be very creative to show their best self, I guess. And suddenly it was no, actually, we need to build solution that the way they onboard on the platform, the way they capture their profile picture is linked to their biometric template. And so you see what I mean? This concept of identity suddenly for dating app it's much more biometric, much less about what the government say about who you are. And so this is a very fluid and dynamic concept, which is driven by the use case, by the risk appetite, and then even by the local jurisdiction, right?
It has to be appropriate for that sort of context as well.
Exactly.
So how are all sectors kind of dealing with deepfakes and identity threats in the same way then, or are you saying kind of a different?
So there is one common denominator, which is the liveness check, right? Which is a very important element to fight deepfake. And then there is the other thing about deepfake, which is like deepfake is trying to trump the computer vision element. So you have to have a multi-layer strategy, which is taking a lot of elements into account. Now, with regards to deepfake, I would say it's not necessarily that the approach is different, but the risk it represents is very different. So, but for the two segments we've been talking about, like FinServe and the marketplaces, I would say they actually amount to like this identity fraud, and for them, in one way or another, like it's a big deal. And in the end, the thing that people don't always realize is deepfake is actually really leveraged through what we call injection attack, which means in the end, it's not really like the media that's the problem. It's controlling the delivery, and so it's much more of a logistic case. And at Veriff, what we've learned is a lot of our customers were trying to integrate us through an API integration. And because it's easier, it's a bit more malleable. For instance, they can keep full control on the experience. But if you can actually integrate Veriff through our SDK, then Veriff has a lot more depth into controlling the full delivery chain of all these selfies and things. And then, the performance in terms of detecting deepfake is like much higher. So there is really an ambition to do a deep integration and to control the logistics of the verification rather than just the media and, trying to answer, is it a deepfake or not? It's a very important part of the equation, but if it's the only part, then you're not structurally positioned to win.
You spoke about Veriff's identity approach and that process. Identity solutions used to be compliance driven. How are they seeing a shift towards performance driven buying behavior? You mentioned that earlier.
So it starts with, very early in the sales process where actually there's going to be an appetite to actually test and deeply test. And, often now the players already have a provider, so it's going to be a very interesting test for us because we are going to be, there's going to be an A/B testing with an incumbent. And so in the end, there is already this first very tangible assessment. And then usually what surprises our customers is that, again, Veriff this is our differentiation, right? We want to outperform everyone on the market. And then usually, people judge us first on the capability we have out of the box. Then they realize that after even a few hours of operations, we can tailor our threshold and our AI to their needs. But then there is usually this aha moment with Veriff, which is we have a fraud countermeasure team that's kind of staying on monitoring of the whole traffic for each of our customers. And they are able to not only take action immediately in minutes when there is any situation that's arises that's not caught by our AI, but also they are able to infiltrate fraud rings in the dark web. Because the thing is, so we have very demanding customers that are targeted by very sophisticated attacks. And the way the fraud rings work is they're going to figure one way, but then when we mitigate it, they are going to keep innovating. That's really what. And so it's not just about to have the technology already, it's how you can evolve it. But it's not just about how you evolve it, it's how you can actually stay close to the attacker to be able to continuously protect the customer, right? So, and these three layers, the default setup, the curated or tailored setup, and then the ability to stay close to the operation and to rapidly have this feedback loop to learn, that's the winning setup for us.
It's been great to speak to you today. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you very much, Evie. I really enjoyed it.